Welcome back everybody to another episode of the GC Informer. I am Snowy, otherwise known as Count Fracula, bringing you some news, controversial drama news. We'll start with the controversial drama news, and it concerns Borderlands 3, a game that does not seem to be catching a break when it comes to pre-release controversy. Now, amongst, the Epic Game Store exclusivity, amongst, Randy Pitchford having some slight Twitter meltdown last week, it's not going well for him at all, really, or, well, just for the game in general from a PR standpoint. And it's about to get a little bit worse for Gearbox and Borderlands 3, because the voice actor of Claptrap has revealed a rather worrying allegation against Randy Pitchford. Talking of his decision to reprise the role as Claptrap in Borderlands 3, David Eddings had this to say on the 7th of May on Twitter. "I had a lot of mixed feelings when asked to reprise the role of Claptrap late last year. I eventually realised I was willing to put differences aside and do something cool for Borderlands fans and my friends at Gearbox. I ultimately offered to do it for free, in quotation marks, in exchange for past royalties owed, plus an apology for something I have never publicly spoken about until now. Randy Pitchford physically assaulted me in the lobby of Marriott Marquis at GDC 2017. That is a very, very serious allegation to make, and I suspect it's an allegation that has not been made lightly either. Obviously, I'm not going to comment on the validity, how true this is, because we don't know. It's an allegation. But, let me know in the comments if you think that is something Randy Pitchford would do to someone. It's a shame to see these kind of things. Really is. I think it's just another example of this game not getting a break at all when it comes to this pre-release PR. I really feel like when the game comes out, a lot of people are going to praise the game in and of itself, despite the fact it's got, cosmetic-only microtransactions, which are microtransactions no matter how much Randy Pitchford wants to have a meltdown on Twitter about them. They are microtransactions, I'm afraid, mate. But, regardless of all of that kind of stuff, it just doesn't seem like Borderlands 3 can catch a break, unfortunately. Whether or not you think that's a good or a bad thing, I will leave entirely to you. Basically, though, this incident has gone unspoken of by Gearbox. They have basically refused to respond properly until not long ago, where they said this in a statement: "Gearbox takes any and all claims of this nature very seriously, and we will abstain from commenting on the allegations Dave is making because it is a personal matter. We appreciate Dave's contributions to the Borderlands franchise and continue to assert we would welcome him back into the mix as the voice of Claptrap and other future opportunities," which I do find quite galling, because Randy Pitchford tweeted out a while ago that he was disappointed that Troy Baker had turned down the offer to reprise his role, wherein Troy Baker replied saying that he'd never received an offer and was in fact told that he wouldn't be coming back. So, we'll see what happens with that. But it's a very vague sort of non-statement from Gearbox there. They're obviously mulling over the correct response to this in a PR term. We don't know if any sort of police filing was filed at the time of the incident or alleged incident or anything like that, but this is a thing to keep an eye on to see how it develops in the next few weeks. Now for the second story, and if you're like me, it will come as good news that in the US, a senator has put forward a bill to go through the House of Representatives? That's the one in America. Anyway, they've put forward a bill concerning loot boxes and who they can be targeted at. The wording that was used in this bill's statement to put forward is that any sort of loot box or pay-to-win microtransactions, that's anything that's not cosmetic only, anything that would be like ammo or special guns that do things better. Anything like that that are classed as microtransactions will not be able to be sold in games that are quote-unquote marketed at kids. So basically, in layman's terms, that would mean that any game that had these kinds of microtransactions in would have to be rated as an 18 in the US. Now, that is a very bold thing to put forward when you're talking about the video game industry, and it's certainly a very bold thing to do in America, where you have the ESA as a company thing, a lobbying company that exists on behalf of the games industry. Yeah, let's not get into that though. This bill was put forward by Senator Josh Hawley, and when introducing the bill, he had this to say. When designing games, when a game is designed for kids, game developers should not be allowed to monetize addiction. And when kids play games designed for adults, they should be walled off from compulsive microtransactions. Game developers who knowingly exploit children should face legal consequences. This does come after, this has been going around for a long time. The last sort of year or so, there's been a lot of different countries looking into this and reviewing this, and people in the US really putting things forward and trying to push this through. And this seems to be the furthest that anyone's got so far. However, the ESA, the lobbying association I mentioned earlier, put forward a statement not long after saying this. Numerous countries, including Ireland, Germany, Sweden, Denmark, Australia, New Zealand, and the United Kingdom, determined that loot boxes do not constitute gambling. We look forward to sharing with the Senator the tools and information the industry already provides that keeps the control of in-game spending in parents' hands. Parents have the ability to limit or prohibit in-game purchases with easy-to-use parental controls. Now, let's unpack that statement slightly, because while what they're saying is in theory true, parental controls do exist on pretty much all of the consoles, and they do restrict things like in-game purchases, but that is a big thing to assume that all parents will know how to do, especially older parents who aren't as tech savvy as, someone like me or someone like you watching this video. You might be quite a tech savvy person, you know what you're doing, but you can't always assume that someone who's a little bit older than us with kids will know what to do. And as we've seen, there's several anecdotal incidents in real life, and it seems to be the case from the sort of data that we get around these things that kids are still buying these microtransactions, and even adults with compulsive addictive personality tendencies do get caught up in these traps. And I believe, in my personal opinion, that it has come to a point where legislation is necessary, because the game industry doesn't police itself to an appropriate level when it comes to this kind of thing. But let me know what you think about that in the comments below, and we will certainly keep you updated if anything comes of this bill. That brings us to the end then of this episode of the GC Informer, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to like, subscribe, and share whatever you fancy. And stay tuned to GameCast. We have news, reviews, podcasts, lots of great, wonderful gaming content all coming up on this channel. And hopefully, at some point, we will be doing we'll be starting a movie podcast where we will be talking about movies. We're moving away from games a little bit. Obviously, gaming is still the primary focus, but provided it gets off the ground, that is a series that will be happening. I'm really excited to see how that's going to be turning out. Regardless though, this has been the news, and I will see you soon for something else.